there, I'm Donna.
And I'm Michael.
And we're the Fechners. We're ordinary people. In fact, we're just teachers.
We've been led on an extraordinary journey. Life has presented us with some unusual opportunities, very unusual at times, over the last 10 years. And despite the risks involved, we've embraced them fully.
And our glass is now overflowing with possibilities because
we never know what happens next. So why not?
Take the chance.
Take a chance indeed, Donna. How are you today, Donna?
Oh, I'm good. I'm ready to have my little glass of mum for this week.
Oh, mum.
Coming from the beautiful town of Res, which we as Australians and Americans call Reims. R-E-I-M-S.
Those bubbles.
A lovely sparkly glass to cheer us on through this conversation today because we need a bit of cheer.
And Mum, Donna, I believe that Mum has even now taken a Tasmanian branch of, and you can get Mum from Tasmania, which is quite amazing.
But it originated in Champagne, so that's why we're drinking.
That's why we've got it, and we've enjoyed it well and truly. Now, Donna, last week we entered into the strange world of Hollywood, as it might be. Lots of interesting people. We've been through the boys that started us off after meeting them on the plane. We then moved on to Phil Avalon on the Gold Coast. We moved into Rod Hardy and from LA and very American.
Australian boy, but living in LA.
And we then moved on to David Lightfoot.
Yeah.
And Franco.
Yeah. And David, as an amazing producer with a great history of working on Wolf Creek and Babe, a wonderful, wonderful career. And I fell in love with David and his passion and his military wisdom, because I certainly didn't have that. So
it was incredible just listening to him, the way he talked and the passion that he had, because all the people we've come across have got that passion. They had it, but as we know, things can go astray.
Well, most people had that passion in their own little areas, and David had lots of passions across the board, but I particularly loved his knowledge about warfare and words that are used and movements. So his wisdom was instrumental in changing the script to what became more acceptable with our military folk, who we know will come and see this story once it's out on screen. So
and even, Donna, when Franco came on board, that changed a little bit as well.
So Franco's a very gentle, creative soul, so it was sort of yin and yang there, and Franco also has a European influence with Italy, so he understands the small village effect of culture, and so he was bringing something else to the table. So we were lucky because our script was growing in depth because of what these fellows were adding into it. So we went through it again, we deleted a lot, we changed a lot, we kept the soul. We changed the name of the main character in Childers. Originally, his name was Firth, as in an Irish guy setting up a cane field. And then Franco suggested that perhaps we look at replacing that character with an Italian character because of the high presence of Italian immigrants.
Yeah, a lot of Italians in around that area with cane, weren't they?
Running cane farms. And so we changed Firth to De Luca, to Mick De Luca. Now, in most of the characters, there are connections to our close friends. So
yes, I remember you going through as you were writing and putting it on. That'll be so and so, and that'll be so and so. We gave them a name, didn't you?
I was very particular about adding people that have supported us all the way along into the script. And I don't think I've missed anybody out. But if I have, apologies. But we didn't have a De Luca, but you are a Mick, so it made sense to have a Mick De Luca. Yeah. And then Mick De Luca's daughter changed in name too, because she changed to an Isabella, and that's the name of our daughter. So that tied our little girl into.
And we're also, because of our relationship with Vignacourt, we were able to use a lot of the soldiers' names, weren't we, too, as characters, because that's where it...
I found that very cathartic for me, and it was a way of paying back to all of the wonderful people who have supported us in Childers by using the actual names, and I know they would not be offended. They would be quite proud to sit there and hear the name of their great-grandfather or their great-uncle being used in this story. So
And it was wonderful.
It's really important to us to make it, that makes it real.
It was wonderful to see the Sea Brothers there.
Yes.
Because they are in the collection, and we came across them in Vignacourt with the people there. And also, I love the gentleman from the Percys from Brisbane. He was a signaller, so he is a signaller in the story as well, which is great.
The difficulty when writing this was not to have any of those names attached to a character who was a negative input to the story.
Yeah, they had to be positive.
I was very careful to do that, and if I have overstepped along the way, I apologise. But I think I threw some characters in there. Of course, there always has to be somebody who disagrees with the main character or who has some prejudice against particular kinds of people or the system. So I think I've done an okay job. Apologies if I haven't, but it was really important to me to make maybe somebody sit in the movie theatre watching the screen and go, oh, thank you. And for a moment there, have that great uncle or that great granddad tapping you on the shoulder and saying, yeah, this is not my actual story, but I'm being remembered by Donna and Michael. So that was important to me.
And remember, Donna, too, the whole purpose of this wanting to make the movie was to keep that Vignacourt story alive, because as we said at the very beginning, yes, it was discovered and it was brought to life by Kerry Stokes and his people, who Max and David Coulthard and our good friend Matt, the others. But it's important to keep that story alive, though, and it's all through it. It's been about that, keeping it alive.
And I think by this stage of the game, I had been working with other people who had knowledge of writing scripts. Yes, and I didn't have that, and I will forever admit that. But they didn't have the deep knowledge of the Diggers or our attachment to Vignacourt or the continuing history. So that was my job, was to make sure that remained real and wasn't removed, and the story didn't become an avenue for another writer to make it all about their political swayings. I wanted to keep the story real.
And I think from an outside point of view, although I know I touched on little pieces with you and added little bits that you asked for. It was your job. But I think what was really interesting was you told this story with such passion and such enthusiasm, which we wanted it to be. We always wanted it to be that. And I personally myself believe that if you have ownership of this and you can tell about it, then the story's got to be good.
Well, the other thing is that there are many themes that run through this script. The Indigenous soldier, love, hate, bravery, courage, pride in being an Australian, gruesomeness of the war, the end of the war, the coming of Armistice Day and what that meant for the future. So I tried to cover as many topics as I possibly could about digging up the dead after the war too, or all the graphic scenes that many of our men dealt with after the war as well, and then coming home following all of the adventures. So
it's about
within 90 minutes. That's a bit hard to do.
It's about what it meant to each one of those people too, because as we've said before, there's lots of material written about the Great War and about the battles and everything, but this is about the people. And while we may have heard about some heroes in certain movies and books and events, this is about real people that just went to war, that were called, went, and it's about their backstory. And Vignacourt had a backstory because it was behind the lines. So this is truly about these people and the effects on them, something that I don't think there's a lot written about. I really don't.
I think one of the main things for me was that Australians went there because we appreciate owning our own homes. We can't imagine what it would feel like to have other people come in and take over your town or your city and tell you to start behaving in a different way. So Australians thought that was really important to them. And even though a lot of them thought it was an adventure at the beginning, by the end, they realised that it was quite a horrific occurrence and came home as completely different people. So then we enter into the picture of PTSD and what happens to soldiers still today, men and women, after doing a tour overseas and come home with those ghosts within their head for the rest of their lives, and how we deal with it. In those days, it wasn't dealt with as well as it is today. So a lot of those young guys were young. So they came home injured, maybe not physically, but definitely emotionally. And for Australian families to deal with that would have been very confronting.
And that comes out in the stories of the people. It comes out completely.
Well, we've tried.
But even Donna, the love affair between Bill and Rosie is something that actually happened. It's real. We know that it happened. We know that in Vignacourt there are a number of men that married French women. And after many wars, people have brought brides home or they've married people from another country. And that's also a really important part of our culture. And what occurred. And
that difficulty of being involved in an environment of hate and searching for love to make life meaningful again, it is a reality. So I touched on it. I gave it my interpretation. So only from research and reading and talking to many of the families whose great-granddads or great-uncles came home or didn't come home, joined all those stories together and did my best to put it on a 90-minute presentation, basically.
And I think when you look at the photographs in the Lost Diggers collection and you find out about their stories, you can see it in their faces too. And what you've written has actually shown that from the faces we've seen.
And by no means am I undermining the work of the Tuileries of Louis and Antoinette. By no means am I doing that. I am celebrating that. And if I can be a voice to get this story out to more people, that's why we're doing this. And that's always been why we've done this, not to Grand Slam or put ourselves first, but to get this story out here and to make current generations maybe a little bit more aware that perhaps there was somebody in that photographic collection that was belonging to their family. And if not, just aware of all of the amazing, courageous stances Australians took and have taken and are taking in any of the global clashes that are happening to this very day.
And I think, as I said, and I'll keep saying all along, it's that passion that we have, that we bring to it, that makes it so very special. Now, Donna, you didn't. It wasn't always 90 minutes, though, was it? We've talked about this before.
Yeah,
you've had to bring it down a lot.
It went from 170 down to 90 because I didn't realise that a page stood for a minute on screen. And once again, I'm very thankful to all of those professionals who have been involved in our journey here. But financially, it has been our payments. It has been us, because we believe in this story so much, who have kept this dream alive.
A lot of other people would have thrown it aside very quickly, but for us, it's been such a labour of love. We've continued. And when things go bad, we just keep going. Because that's what it's about.
The other thing is we are just teachers and we aren't in the business, and nor would we ever claim to be. We have this beautiful story, which every time we present it to somebody, they say, wow, this needs to get out there. And that is our purpose, to talk about the Tuileries, to talk about Australian boys and ladies, to talk about the Indigenous soldier, to talk about these issues that occurred in World War I, that maybe we've moved on now in 2024 and we've addressed some of those issues. But I was so proud and wanted to write this story so people could see and hear it.
And I'll always remember Phil Avalon, who we love dearly. He said, well, Donna and Michael, when you've done this one, you'll be professionals at it. And I remember us laughing at the time, but I tell you, we have learned so much.
We've learned a lot.
Yes.
We've learned a lot about the business. We've learned a lot about people, more so.
Yeah.
And I understand that, if a project isn't happening, that people move on. but I'm very appreciative to those people who've played their part to get us to this point at this stage. So talking about David, so last week we alluded to the fact that there would be a change. David was unwell, and he would go into spaces of PTSD because of his war history himself. He was 19 when he served, and many of the scenes of battle and the words used in the script are totally his. There is a scene where Bill is, I won't try and tell you what's going on, but Bill has witnessed a death, and he has hair and skin from the person who's been killed on his body, and he's picking it off his body. That actually happened to David. And David used to ring me at 2 a.m, 5 a.m, 10, a couple of times a day, and say, I've just remembered this happened to me. Can you put this in scene such and such because it's real? So I will be forever indebted to David and to the stories that he shared with me. It also made me realise that PTSD, after all these years, David was still experiencing it. And when Anzac Day came around, he would catch up with his mates, and he would relish in the fact that he fought for our country under grievous circumstances at the age of 19, and he was always proud of what he achieved. But he would always admit that it wasn't easy at times, and that occasionally people would misunderstand what he had to do under orders, which is what a lot of soldiers have to do. So David carried a lot of that pain, and I often just listened to him, and my heart reached out to him.
And Donna, we know that, as we alluded to last week also, he had been to Cairn, he was unwell, had come home and was sick again. And again, the last point of last week, the most incredible thing occurred.
So he was in contact with me daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and at that stage I was thinking, wow, this script is rich.
Yeah, it was moving. Things were moving.
Thank you, David. Tell me again. And I would never deny his call, no matter, even though I was still teaching.
He had a casting agent. He had a musician.
He was lining people up. He had a lot of
there
really
was so much going on,
viable connections in the business.
And it was alive. The enthusiasm that we felt and everything was just incredible.
He was devoted to the cause, and he was in it 150%. So.
And one night you got a phone call.
One night, no, he rang me one afternoon, and he said, "I'm not feeling the best, but I'm hoping I have a good night's sleep tonight, and I'll be fine."
And you just wanted to talk again.
Yeah, and I said, "Go rest, David. Just we'll speak tomorrow. Go have an early night." And the next phone call I received was from a member of his family saying that David had passed.
Had passed the night after you had spoken with him. We were absolutely devastated. This came out of the blue, and we could not believe that this man that had built up this relationship with us was gone.
And we hadn't met.
We'd never met. We talked to him regularly, but we'd never met.
But we had laughed, and we had been creative, and we had listened, and we had shared. So
and he was gone. He was gone.
I felt I knew him.
We'd lost a friend. We'd lost a partner in this incredible project that had given it so much and given us all his time.
And we'd lost somebody who I wanted to see.
We wanted him,
somebody
yes.
I wanted to meet face to face and just give him a big hug and say, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for helping me with this story.
And we weren't able to do that. It was COVID. We weren't able to get to his funeral in Adelaide. We joined in virtually. We'd spoken to members of his family.
His family who were very gracious.
And they also said, you're the people that David's working with at the moment. He is so...
Yeah, they were very aware that he was involved in this
so
project.
Embedded in this project.
Yeah. And it was difficult for us to say we can't come to the service, but we joined in through a live stream.
We wanted to be there because he had become part of our lives so incredibly so. So it was unbelievable. We'd lost people through other means along the way, but here, once again, we are starting to climb the mountain.
We got excited again, and
it was
things were
taken
starting
away.
to be ticked off, and then COVID hit. David passed, and
it was
the project
over. It was really
once again went into
hibernation. It went into hibernation. We had Franco there, who had only just got on board, and all of a sudden Franco was left carrying the bag of the whole story.
So we went back to teaching, virtually, of course, and once again put the project aside and said, you know what? What more are we going to go through here? We get so close every time, and every time it stops. And we can't keep putting money into this because we need to live ourselves. We're not 25. We are now in our 60s, early 60s, so we have to perhaps start being sensible and put this dream aside.
And some people would have just said, enough's enough. Put it away. You've had a plate.
I've been there.
You've been there.
I've been there a number of times, and you are as stubborn as a mule.
I've always believed that we've been meant to carry on this journey. And look, it's not over, but we're meant to continue this journey. And all these people, including David, have led us, as we've said all along the path to be able to get there. And I still believe that that's the case. But when you're down, you get up and have another go. And we kept going. We had Franco. So Franco, we got to meet Franco finally. He came up and we had a good chat about things. And look, we'd always had a discussion, and we had a discussion with David about whether we should actually do a book.
So I'd just like to say I've dedicated the script to David, and I still talk to him, and I'm asking him, why the bloody hell isn't it happening yet? So David, if you're listening to our podcast, can you just push a few people at the moment? Because despite your glass half full attitude, Mr. Fechner, I am getting to the point of saying maybe it was just a dream, and maybe it has to go in another direction. So that's where I am at the moment, but I am open to any movement within the project itself. And so when Franco suggested, let's write a novel about it, I didn't hesitate.
Well, we thought that's obviously, it had been discussed, because in a lot of movie projects, there was a book first and the movie's adapted from that. And here we had the movie script, we had everything ready, and we thought, look, there was a little bit of hesitancy in the marketplace in general. Things were slowing down because of COVID and everything else. So we thought we need to probably rev this up a bit, so let's do a book.
Having said that, though, I had been involved in writing a screenplay, changing it to a TV
Netflix
series,
and
now writing in the genre
and you're all
of a
teaching,
novel.
and you're teaching prep at the same time,
I'm
Donna.
teaching prep, and we're counting to 20 now, so we're getting a bit more advanced. And turning up at work
every day,
and doing what that means.
And people asking, how's the movie going, Donna? How's Michael? How's it going?
And it's wonderful that people care.
And we'd had all these positives. Things were positive happenings, but then it would take the negative side again. So a good friend of ours, George Petro, who we had met, who had done some incredible paintings of the Lost Diggers.
And had brought them over to Vignacourt with us on one of our trips to France.
Yeah, we started talking with him, and he had done a book called
The Art of
Sacrifice, and we helped collaborate in that by doing a couple of chapter on it. And we talked to him and said, look, who published your book? Because we thought we might. We went back to the publishers who did the Silent Soldiers, and they hadn't really done what we wanted them to do. So we thought, we'll ask someone else. So.
No, actually, the Silent Soldiers have now sold out, so it was finished. So that run was done. And so George recommended this other company that he had been working with.
Denny at Big Sky Publishing had looked after him and had created this beautiful book called The Art of Sacrifice. So we talked to Franco, and Franco said, why not? Let's have a go at this. So
why not take a chance?
Why not take it again?
There we go.
So we got on to Denny from Big Sky Publishing, and Donna said about... first of all, when we spoke to him, he said, yes, look, I'll publish it. And we thought, my goodness, this is too easy. But then Donna had to go about transforming it from a screenplay
the presentation
to a novella.
So, took some time, finished that. Big Sky was great to work with.
They were fantastic. They supported the project. There was, in the editing, a lot of people had said it read like a screenplay. And so, Donna, you had you had to make it into a novel-type story, didn't you? Had to change it in chapters.
And look, even when I look at it, it's called Photos in the Attic, even when I look at it now, I found a few extra little typos in there. But generally, it was easy enough because I knew where I wanted the story to go, except the movie doesn't really have an ending, but the novel gives you an ending.
We always wanted the movie to leave people in their seats, didn't we, at the end?
I wanted girls to go back to coffee, or boys, both of you together, to go back for coffee and drinks after the movie and go, oh, what do you reckon happened? I think this. No, don't be ridiculous. I think this. That I wanted some discussion. I wanted some alive banter.
You wanted people to come to the end of the movie.
I wanted banter over champagne.
See that last scene and them say, no! What happened? What happened?
Also could lead to part 2.
Could have been,
Which another 10 years in my life, I'm not sure if
But you had to rewrite, so you wrote something very different. But
so I wrote the novel with the ending, and for me, the ending was very cathartic because it ties everyone together. It's beautiful. And it's quite an unexpected ending, and I'm very, very proud of it. And if we decided to have that in the movie, I would be proud.
So at the moment, if you read the book, you'll see a very good ending. But when the movie comes along,
there'll be no
depending,
ending.
There might be a different ending.
I don't think so.
But look, Franco, in his role as director now, our director and producer, so to speak, although we did have Sabella Sugars.
So now Ultra Films has taken us on board,
which is David's old company, and his partner Sabella Sugars.
Under the leadership of Sabella Sugar, she has become involved in the possibility of the movie now.
Of
but
being
as far
a producer.
as the book went, Sabella wasn't involved in the book, but she is now involved in the movie.
So Franco, we've got him as the director, and he wrote this beautiful piece, which I think says it all, Donna. Donna Fechner's Photo in the Attic is a really beautifully written story with the potential to be a true classic.
Love you, Franco.
In the First World War, many young Australians not only volunteered to defend their motherland, Britain, but to see the world and embark on a big adventure. Of course, it was an adventure, but not what they imagined. A virtual hell on earth with horrific injuries and death. They suffered mental illness and they grief, but also wonderful mateship and extraordinary romances. The story captures all of these elements. There is also the exquisite beauty and life-affirming nature of Louis and Antoinette Tuilier's iconic photographs of the Australian soldiers, the inspiration for the movie. Ultimately, Photos in the Attic is a love story with much complexity exploring divided loyalties and the madness of war. It pulls at the heartstrings and shows how youth sustains the weight of passion and unpreparedness to face the most extreme challenges head on. Beautiful words from Franco there.
Yeah.
And that tells the story well and truly as to where the book was. So we had Big Sky publishing the book. 5,000 copies or more done, put out there and all ready to launch. So we were again on a little bit of a high. The movie had sort of taken a little bit of a back step, but here we were refreshing.
Launching a novel.
With Photos in the Attic, one world, two worlds, three people in love.
One war.
One war.
See, that's why I'm the writer.
Two worlds, three people in love. And you did it all while you're teaching prep.
Yep.
Which is, many people have said, my goodness gracious me, did she really do that while she was teaching prep? And I said, yes.
And trust me, Big Sky did say this to me, similarly to what Screen Queensland had said to me, you're not writing a novel to make money, remember? And that's true. I'm writing it to get this story out there.
Yeah,
and I will stick to that till the very end, even those people who think that we're not. This story is really important to us.
It's not about, if we were making money or wanting to make,
teaching?
We would be out of this well and truly. But look, it's such a and to wander into the stores, Donna, and see Photos in the Attic on the shelves, to go to the airport and see it on shelves. Go to the airport
and see your name on the shelves and just push all the other books aside and put yours dead centre and go, oh my God, that looks fabulous.
So incredible. And as I said, the the Photos in the Attic book. We've got a lovely website now, www.photosintheatticproject.com, which talks about the book. Get onto that and have a look as well. But look, next week, Donna, we shall move on for the book.
Well, we'll talk about the launchers and the people who helped us with the book, because there's a number of people.
Yeah, and that takes us a bit further, doesn't it? Still,
us.
It gave the movie project a bit of a boost.
It did. But I have to say, it's sleeping again. So we're waiting. Again, we're waiting, because why not take a chance?
Take a chance, is it, Donna? Don't ever forget it.
Yeah,
What is it, Donna? Why not? Take a chance.
Chance, you silly fools.
See you next week, guys. Enjoy the mum, Donna.
Oh, it's finished. I must
You
pour
need to get
myself
another one.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.